Hello, it's Miss Lamb, and today I'm going to teach you guys about the causes and effects of the War of 1812. One of the main causes that is always cited for why the Americans went to war with the British was impressment. The British were stopping American ships and forcing American sailors into the British Navy. This was largely due to the fact that the British were at war with France and Napoleon, and they needed more people to serve in their navy. And the Americans that they would, in fact, kidnap would a lot of the times be people that had deserted or escaped from the British Navy and went to America to become part of, to become American and to become American sailors. And so Britain would justify that by saying, we're just reclaiming the people who are supposed to be in our Navy. And so Britain was seizing American ships landing in French ports, which was a violation of neutral rights, and taking our cargo. So they were trying to not allow the Americans to trade with the French, and then not only turning us away, but taking our cargo from us without paying us. So this is a political cartoon that just is supposed to represent what's going on here. But the Americans also believed the British encouraged the Shawnee Native Americans to attack. So the Shawnee had been attacking the Americans. The Americans felt that the British were inciting that attack and talking the Shawnee into doing it. Tecumseh, a Shawnee Indian chief, attacked many American frontier settlements. The British also have not left the forts in the Ohio River Valley and are limiting territorial expansion opportunities in the West. So after the American Revolution, the British had lost that land in the Ohio River Valley, but yet their soldiers and their forts had stayed in that land. And so the Americans were upset about that. Another cause of the War of 1812 is that some Americans had the desire to conquer and expand into Canada. And this whole thing was a matter of national pride. So, supporters for the war, people who wanted war, were nicknamed war hawks. And they were Republicans, mostly from the west and southern regions of our nation. Henry Clay of Kentucky, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and John Calhoun, a senator from South Carolina, were two examples of war hawks, people who spoke out that wanted war with the British. In June of 1812, President James Madison asked Congress for a declaration of war. And this is another political cartoon, and it's titled A Boxing Match or Another Bloody Nose for John Bull, which was a nickname for the British. But basically, if you look at this political cartoon, it's supposed to be the British getting beat up by the Americans, obviously. And it says over here to the left by the British soldier, "Stop, stop, stop, brother Jonathan, or shall fall with the lots of blood I thought to have been too heavy for you. But I must acknowledge your superior skill. 2 blows to my 1, and so well directed too. Mercy, mercy on me. How does this happen?" And then you've got the American over here who's winning the fight, who says, Johnny, you thought yourself a boxer, did you? I'll let you know. We are an enterprising nation and ready to meet you with equal force any day. So basically, this is just a political cartoon where the Americans are trying to show that we feel that we are superior. Not only did we defeat the British in the American Revolution, but we're going to defeat them again in the War of 1812. So the Battle of York is a U.S. victory. It's in present-day Toronto, which is in Canada. American troops loot and burn the fort and the town, which was Britain's capital city at the time of their colonies in Canada. And so burning York, they later get us back. So we burn their capital. Just wait. I'll talk about that later, but they're going to get us back for that. So the British then, fast forward, capture Washington, D.C. in August of 1814. So this war started in 1812, hence the name War of 1812. And it goes through 1814. The British actually get us back for setting fire to York by setting fire to our Capitol building and, of course, the presidential mansion. James Madison escapes to Virginia. Dolly Madison was his wife and the first lady. She is credited as a hero because she saved many valuables, including the portrait of George Washington, things that could not have been replaced. So she's considered a hero for doing that. The Battle of Fort McHenry is another famous battle from the War of 1812. The British advanced to Baltimore. They bombard Fort McHenry in September of 1814. This is the battle where our national anthem gets written. It's Francis Scott Key. He witnesses the attack. He's out on a boat, stuck, basically, while this is taking place, and he writes a poem about what he sees happening at Fort McHenry. And that's what our national anthem is about, that particular battle. And this is just an image of what Fort McHenry looks like today if you were to go visit it. And so this is just a draft of the, original words. The Treaty of Ghent actually ends the War of 1812 between the Americans and the British, and it is negotiated in December of 1814. So technically there is no winner for this war. So that's what I mean by saying this war ends in a stalemate, with neither side gains or loses territory. So literally, neither side gained, neither side lost. This war ends in a stalemate. No one gains, no one loses. No land changes hand because of this war. So really nothing changes. So there's no real clear-cut winner. Then the most famous battle of the war actually takes place after the treaty is signed, but because word traveled so slowly back then, word had not gotten to New Orleans, which is in modern-day Louisiana. And so British commanders are hoping to capture the city of New Orleans, and they want to take control of the Mississippi River. And the Mississippi River is obviously valuable to control because then you could, control trade between the North and the South in America. And so it would be a big deal for the Americans to lose control of the Mississippi River. Again, both sides do not know that the war is over or it hasn't reached them. So in January of 1815, General Andrew Jackson decisively defeats the invading British. This makes Andrew Jackson a national hero. Andrew Jackson later becomes president. We'll talk about that. And he's actually a very controversial figure. And so we'll learn a whole lot more about him in the next unit. But just know that this is where he became a war hero. And he was nicknamed Old Hickory because he stood strong, like hickory wood, which is apparently very, very strong. And Jackson was known for fighting injured. He was known for, being right out front fighting with his men. He was tough. And so the Battle of New Orleans was a victory for the Americans, although the battle took place after the war was over, where there was no winner. And it was the last major conflict of the War of 1812. But the main thing to know about this battle is that Andrew Jackson becomes a hero, and the battle takes place, the most famous battle of the war takes place after the war is technically over. So this is an image portraying Jackson defeating the British at that battle. So here's some effects of the War of 1812. There is a surge in American nationalism, or another way that you could say that is patriotism. Americans become very patriotic. We love our country. We are so tough. Look, we defeated the British twice. So this is one of the main things to come out of the war because, again, neither side really won anything. Nothing changed hands. No one got any extra land. One political party, the Republicans, end up dominating politics. So this is where, we had the Democratic Republicans, I'm saying Republicans for short, but the Democratic Republican political party, and we have the Federalist political party. The Federalists actually lose power because of this war. What had happened was the Federalist political party had secretly gathered before the Battle of New Orleans to oppose the war, like they were against the war. And nothing really happened out of that, but it came to light, like two Americans, like they found out that these Federalists had secretly gathered and they were against a war. And after we have this huge victory at the Battle of New Orleans, and Americans think we're the winner, even though nothing really changes hands, we're all patriotic, we love our country, it ends up making the Federalists looking unpatriotic. And because of that, the Federalist Party basically is destroyed and they lose political power. And another effect of the war, so we've got the surge of American nationalism or patriotism. We end up, the Federalists lose political power, the Democratic Republicans dominate. We've got American manufacturing is boosted because a lot of times after the war or during the war, really, you go into wartime production and it actually helps your economy and it puts people to work and you're producing stuff and you're selling stuff. And so this actually helped us economically. And the Native Americans who had been attacking us with the help of the British are no longer getting that help. They no longer are attacking us. Their resistance is weakened. They, like I said, the Native Americans are not backed up by the British. And so basically the Americans have free reign over expanding west at this point. So those are the things that come out of the War of 1812. But again, just remember, there's no real clear-cut winner from this war. But Americans think they're the winner, and they are very patriotic about it. So, all right, fill out your Cornell notes. Make sure to answer the questions on the left side. Fill out the summary at the bottom. You should have more than one sentence for a summary, and probably 4 to 5. All right, thanks. Have a good day, guys.